Thanks a lot, and it's an honor to be here with you and sharing knowledge and experiences. We are few now, but I hope that we will discuss later and maybe more and more came and have more things to discuss. So as you said before, Eleusis is located 20 kilometers to the west of Athens and is one of the 5 municipalities belonging to the regional unit of Western Attica. Since the beginning of the 20th century, this geographical area has been a hub for the country's industrial development, with dozens of polluting industries, such as 2 refineries, 2 shipyards, 2 steel factories, 2 cement factories, and dozens of other industries in the secondary sector of small or medium impact on the environment. Eleusis is located on the coastal front of the sea, a natural harbor that became a natural home for the concentration of industrial activity from the second half of the 20th century. Eleusis differs radically from the stereotypical image of Greece as a country with beautiful beaches where people are carefree and relaxed and spend their lives enjoying the sun and sea. Eleusis is a reflection of an entirely overlooked but at the same time very real aspect of Greece, productive Greece. Some 30% of the country's gross domestic product is produced in Eleusis and the wider Thracian region, a percentage that is roughly equal to the national contribution of tourism to gross domestic product. Eleusis is Greece's productive engine, and the ECOC encounters it at one of the most critical times of its history, the time of crisis, as you already know. In ancient Greek, crisis means decision. The title of ECOC at this moment is related to the entire city's irrevocable decision to turn page in its history and make its definitive transition to a new growth model. In the case of Eleusis, the title of ECOC acts as a catalyst for a series of development at national, local and European level, which are critical for the city's future. Eleusis is a city of immigrants and workers. By the second half of the 19th century, Eleusis had already become Greece's industrial center. The city's contemporary human geography is a result of industrial concentration in the area. It's a melting pot. It's a mosaic of too many groups, which transformed the city, in the words of a visitor at the time, from a fishing village to a bustling industrial city. From 2,400 inhabitants in 1907, the community's population increased to 6,400 in 1927 and rose to 21,000 inhabitants in 1921. This includes around 2,000 refugees after the Asia Minor 100 years ago, which was also the first major mixing with the local population and radically changed the demographic structure and mentality of the inhabitants. They were later followed by internal migrants from all over Greece, as I said, who gave the city its multicultural character. Today, Eleusis has a registered population of 30,000, while it is estimated that 50,000 people live in the city. Since the beginning of the 20th century, the workers' movements has made the city a point of reference for decades. During the same period, environmental issues and citizens' movements has made the city a point of reference for decades. Eleusis identifies with the working class, with the working person, as a provoker of creation, development and culture. The workers' movements at the beginning of the century, which was expressed bequeathed a sense of active citizenship upon the city, which was expressed in subsequent years in the form of various citizens' collectives. Even today, Eleusis stands out for the large number of associations and unions active in its confines. Interestingly, Eleusis had also been the production engine of Attica in ancient times, when agriculture was the basis of the economy. Eleusis was again the symbolic place of this innovation that changed the face of human society forever. What is more, just as the city has been configured by migrant workers in modern time, in ancient times the city also bared a special relationship with migrants, as it was worshipping a migrant goddess, Demeter. Thus, from ancient times to the present day, Eleusis can be described as a city of immigrants and refugees. From the agricultural to the post-industrial revolution, Eleusis narrates 4,000 years of history of humans as producers, as creators, and as workers. From those times to the present, Eleusis is a symbol of humans driven by the quest for a better future, which they create their own hands, while at the same time producing knowledge and wealth for their societies. The concept of our program can be summarized with the phrase transition to euphoria. Transitions refers to the current situation in Europe, one aspect of which is the crisis, which Greece has been experiencing intensively in recent years. It refers to the need to redefine the content of sustainability at both the social and economical level. It also refers to the greatest common challenge that Eleusis, Greece, and Europe are currently facing. Euphoria is the word we have chosen to describe the ability of art and culture to become the catalyst for transition to a sustainable future at both the local and the European level. The concept of euphoria stems from the fact that grammatically the diphthong EU is common to the words Europe and Eleusis. It's the meeting and contract between Eleusis and Europe. Semantically, EU is the acronym for the European Union, the symbol of United Europe, while when transcribed to Greek it coincides with the ancient F. E and U in Greek is F. In Greek, the adverb F stands for good, not in a moralistic but in a deeper sense. F is the good that has the power to transform and upgrade its surroundings. And that, in fact, is the main characteristic of art and culture. F, therefore, is essentially equivalent to art and culture, and euphoria, meaning delivering good, stands for the good that can be delivered by the arts and culture, the good that Europe can deliver if it establishes art and culture as the basis for its development. Despite its small size, Eleusis is so similar to Europe that we would say it's a miniature replica of the Union. This means that it can become an ideal place for the study of major social and financial challenges that Europe is currently facing. At the social level, just as Europe consists of many different nations, so does the population of Eleusis consist of people with many different origins. The common element in both cases is that these populations are not linked by ties from the past due to origin, common history or tradition, but with ties from the present and the future, their common desire to create a common place where the children can live and flourish. At the economic level, Eleusis is currently facing the same challenges as post-industrial Europe. The challenge of a balanced growth that will ensure work for everyone while respecting the quality of life of citizens and natural resources. These great common challenges faced by Eleusis, and Europe become the three central themes of our program. In the EU urbanization theme, F-urbanization theme as we say, we focus on the social aspect of transition, the challenge of redefining our relationship to the other, where that is the EU citizens of another member, state of the stranger, that one who comes from outside the EU, the immigrants or refugees. In the EU working classes theme, we deal with the economic aspect of transition, focusing on the challenge of labor and the human workforce of the future. In the EU environment theme, we focus on the great challenge of redefining our relationship to the environment. In this way, Eleusis aims to become a field of study for the F of Europe, for sustainable development and the sustainable future of a united Europe. Our artistic program is composed of two intersecting axes, transition and euphoria. Transition, as we said, represents the horizontal axis and focuses on the flow, the sequence of the program through 2021. Euphoria represents the vertical axis and focuses on the content and the program building up process, which began on 2017 and culminate on 2021. Transition demonstrates how we actually make this transition to euphoria during the title year, whereas euphoria determines the content of this transition. The F working classes, the EU working classes theme focuses on the challenge of labor. Mankind's need for survival, creativity, and recognition is crystallized by our relationship to work. Increasing unemployment all over Europe and the search for job satisfactions are perhaps the greatest challenges to growth. Sustainability at a local, national, and European level depends largely on our capacity to adapt to a constantly changing working environment. Innovation depends on our ability to link ideas to their implementation, art to production. This theme imagines the workflows forces of the Europe, the competitiveness and growth as a result of arts being linked to fields such as industry, science, technology, and social innovation. The theme consists of Flagship Project and 3 programs which approach the aforementioned question via 3 district territories. You can see our Flagship Project. It's by Juan Sandoval, and the name is Eleusis, Eleusis Terracotta Army. It is a large-scale portrait of contemporary Eleusis and the broader area of the Thracian plain, which derives from the mixing of 2 local materials, clay from the Thracian plain and the local workers themselves. The project conception and initiation belong to the Colombian artist Juan Sandoval, who lives and works in Italy, is a close associate of Città dell'Arte and works regularly with projects of social nature. At a time when China is making huge investments in the ports of Attica and the Thracian plain area, we are creating an artwork with clear references to the monumental Chinese terracotta army, which represents the historical and cultural heritage of China. Each of the figures is a faithful portrait of one of the soldiers who composed the army of the emperor. Sandoval supports that the cultural value in current industrial city lies in employment. The aim of the project is the creation of a temporary monument for the people working in Eleusis. Juan Sandoval will create a clay helmet for each of the workers, which will bear the workers' personal data, his name, the names of his beloved ones, his favorite sport team, his favorite artist, his favorite word, or his favorite symbol. In all industrial activities, protective objects are used, such as goggles, boots, gloves, and special helmets. He chose, as you can say, as a symbolic element, he chose a helmet to encompassing all kinds of workers and as a representative element of the project. He proposed to create a handmade object made of clay, as the old ones created for daily use of rituals, like the ancient objects found in the cemetery of Elefsina. The helmet symbolizes work within the factory and identifies a particular subject. At the same time, as an object made now with ancient techniques, it links the industrial present of the town with its history. Helmets will be created and baked during special events with participation of associations, unions, schools, and the area's labor force. It's going to be a fiesta. We intend to create between 7,000 to 10,000 helmets, corresponding to the number of workers in this area, thus building a huge portrait of the area's labor force, a portrait of the people who produce contemporary development of Greece. You can watch pictures where Juan Sandoval present his work to the workers. We were inside the industries and talking with them. And now you can see a helmet that a worker has also prepared. And Juan Sandoval helmet in his head. So, and now it's the process of signing and taking participation to this project, and also EOMA. So we have another program named Art Industry, and with the project Art at Work. This program approaches Eleusis as an industrial city, as we say, both in its history and in modern industrial production. It brings artists into contact with the industrial units, these enclosed areas, which operate as cut-off islands within the city. It invites artists to deal with the issues of industry and labor, and to create projects that refer to the everyday work and the transformations that the labor market is experiencing today. So that's why we had a project Inventory, with the name Inventory, and it was a work of performing arts and multimedia by Jenny Argyriou and Vasilis Gerodimos, which draws on the labor movements and the course of labor claims. It is a journey through the industrial action in Eleusis since the beginning of the 20th century up to this year, which marks 100 years since the founding of the General Confederation of Greek Workers. The work begins with participatory archival research and lead to a public digital performance procession last 11th of November. This theme was chosen for the 11th anniversary with a view to highlighting a key component of the contemporary identity of Eleusis. The element of labor, the labor movement, the life of factory workers and working conditions, the city's workforce, which is one of the three main themes of the transition to euphoria. In addition, this project constitutes a proposal of Eleusis 2021 to the European Year of Cultural Heritage for 2018 as a development of the industrial city and the labor movement, the new living conditions that they shape, the concerns they raise, and how we deal with them are shared by many European cities since the 19th century to the present day. In other words, they are components of the European dimension which characterizes the modern-day city of Eleusis. Workers and, in general, people participated in the process of works creation and become part of the performance procession itself in the following ways. As a part of the main group of performers who have led the procession of November 11th. Through a series of brief working meetings, participants get acquainted with the procession pace, moving on their own and in groups with the poses, the importance of sounds, live video projections, and the use of objects. Also, people connected with the project by participating in the connection of historical and archival material that the artists used for a procession path, and was part of the accompanying audiovisual material. For 2 months, anyone who wanted brought photographs or any other historical documents about the labor movement, newspapers, texts, videos, audio files, and share a testimony they have experienced or heard. Visits were made to factories and worker unions, as well as to associations to inform them about the project. The above actions were done with the collaboration of the Creative Industries Department and artists. Finally, all residents of Eleusis, regardless of their age or experience, were welcomed to participate in the procession of November 11th. And as you can see, Eleusis, as you already know, is synonymous with the working class and the working person as an agent of growth and culture. The worker unions' claims of the beginning of the last century pass on the active citizenship consciousness, which is still expressed in the form of various collectives and is a characteristic element of the city's identity. The project artists create a temporary social area, a workshop you've seen before, with containers, at the waterfront of Eleusis, where they carry out on-the-spot archival research, they collect material and testimonies from the residences of Eleusis, and they experiment with participatory workshops by gathering information and preparing the final presentation of 11/11. The testimonies and documents found during the research guide Argyriou and Gerodimos, the artists, to study and point out the places where the most prominent street protests took place within the labor movement in Eleusis. Based on this information, the path to be followed during the performance procession is set out on the city's map, while the audiovisual material collected in collaboration with the people of Eleusis used to shape the performance visual and audio dimension. The November 11th performance procession itself had a ritual character, while using the bodies of the residents, the digital audiovisual media, and the streets of buildings of Eleusis, which have some historical reference to the labor movement as key elements. The digital media enable artists to awaken all stories, images, and sounds when people were coming to Eleusis for work, as well as the key moments, claims, and struggles up to now. The same space workshop, apart from its research purposes, is also a live installation where all the material was presented to the public. That, moreover, is a practice often followed by the artists Genia Geriou and Vasilis Gerodimos, whose work brings the area's history to the present time by creating a living body of collective memory through everyday narratives and archives that the citizens keep as part of their personal history. Another project is going to run in 2019, and it's a series of projects that will be created within industries or other workplaces. As I said, by the end of 2019, an open invitation to participate will be addressed to the companies and industries to declare their willingness to host an artist for some time. Around early 2020, an international open call will be addressed to artists to match the available businesses. The production and the presentation of the works will take place in 2021. There are a series of projects that will try to engage with workers. I don't have any time, but all these projects, I can say, need time. A lot of time, and of course, it's not for 1 year. It's not for 2021. As I mentioned before, it's a process. It is a transition. The key is the audiences, the citizens. Until the year of 2021, we passed and we will pass time, a lot of time of listening them, listening citizens, listening different audiences in their places, in our common place. We are building a social relation and a trust relationship with communities. We are all sharing memories and dreams. We are sharing a vision, the transition to euphoria. Thank you.